Hi guys, Jordan from P&P Campers. I'm just going to do your handover video on your Adria Twin. So this one's a 2006 model. So last of the chassis before the one next door there. So under the bonnet, we've got on the left-hand side here your engine battery with various kind of wires, fuses and relays and things like that. They're mainly just going to be to do with things like the split charging, maybe some reversing sensors if it's got any reversing sensors. I'll just check that. No, it doesn't. But yeah, so all of these little wires and fuses and things next to the engine battery, don't worry about those. There's nothing you have to do with any of that. You then got your brake fluid attached to the servo just down there, power steering fluid at the front here, and your engine oil filling point just here at the top of the engine. The engine oil dipstick is this red topped one just here at the front. The chassis plates, so this is the original one that was put on by Fiat, and this is the one that you actually want to go off because this is the one that's being upgraded by Adria. So it's probably very, very similar, but they have to put it on there. So you then got more fuses and relays behind this cover just here. Engine coolant in this reservoir just to the right of that. You've then got your air filter inside this box just here, and your washer fluid inside this little cap just here. Fuel filter sits at the back just there with the little orange bit on it, and you've got yet more fuses and relays underneath this little box just here. So the white paint colour on this particular vehicle is Fiat 249. That's a very typical Fiat Ducato white colour, and that would be the same white that comes all the way through to the back end as well. Diesel filling point just inside here, and you will need your ignition key to get this to open up. Inside the passenger door, there's very rarely anything to actually show you. In this particular case, all you've got a little green switch in there, which I'm not 100% on what it does. I'm sure we can work that out. But you've got, on both sides of the cab, you've got these two little screws here on this little cover. Now, this is basically a little sort of covering for the fuse boxes under the in the dash. The one over on the offside there on the driver's side is slightly more important because you've got the OBD reader next to it as well. So if you ever get any fault codes come up on the dash, that's basically the area you want to be in to get into there to plug in. But other than that, that's about it really for this near side. Because this is the long wheelbase version of the Fiat Ducato, you have got this little extra piece just here, which is where they've fitted the fridge vents, which I think is quite a nice place for them to have fitted it. So I've got the fridge lit up on gas at the moment, and I can feel warm air coming out through the top right hand side of this top vent. And this is basically, the flame sits down here on the bottom right hand side and comes up through the exhaust and comes out through the flue. So if you ever wanted to double check that your fridge is definitely working, pop your hand over there and physically feel the warm air coming out. So that proves to me that it's working. But if you ever needed to get to the back of the fridge for any reason, that's where you go for that. Just whilst we're here as well, I mean, obviously I'm going to go around the outside and then I'm going to go inside afterwards. But whilst I'm here, you've got this little cupboard down here, which is actually quite important. So you've got your leisure battery inside there. You've also got, by the looks of it, various kind of plug sockets, fuses, relays, things like that. So again, nothing that you actually have to do anything with, but if you ever needed to get to anything 12 volt or anything went wrong in the future, this is more than likely where it's going to be sort of coming from. So obviously get in touch with us if you do get any issues. There aren't any problems with it at the moment, but that's where the majority of your 12 volt stuff is, just down there in that nice little cupboard. This little table that comes out just here, and also we'll point out that you can actually fit the table that you've got there, the original factory fitted one. Because of the layout, you can drop that table down half height and fold the leg in half so that you can pull this cushion forwards and make a small bed in the front. But if you notice, you've got this same bracket here on the outside as you do inside. So you can actually have this table put up outside if you want to, and you know, have the awning wound out, all that sort of stuff. So you can have the table made up outside, just in case you were wondering why there was a table bracket on the outside. So inside the back doors just here, not a huge amount to run through again. You've got the really good access to the boiler here, which is always massively helpful. If there was ever any problems with this boiler, it wouldn't take very long to fix. The only time that the boilers take a long time to work on is when they're normally stuffed right over in a corner that you can't really get to. So this being here like this is absolutely brilliant. It's also good for you because you've got this little piece here at the back, this bit here. This is your drain off point. So if you ever wanted to drain the boiler out of its water, you push this little button down and it will drain all the water out. Otherwise, all the rest of the time you need to have it pulled up, and that'll basically stop it from draining itself out. The only time that this will actually drain itself out, because it is an automatic drain off valve, the only time it will do that is if it gets down to about sort of 3 or 4 degrees, that sort of temperature, and it will just drop the water out from the boiler, you know, automatically. And the reason it'll do that is because if you forget to drain the water out of this boiler and it freezes, then you're going to be in a world of trouble, basically, because all of these little pipes, all of the little, you know, bits and pieces around there, when water freezes, it expands and you will get cracks and leaks and things like that. So that's why the automatic drain off valve is there. Once it has drained itself out, you do have to lift it back up again manually so that you can fill the boiler back up in order to actually use it. But I will talk you through that when we get inside, because that's more sort of like water pump related. But yeah, that's the boiler there, if you ever wondered you know, what any of those bits and pieces were. Awning winder just here, so you know, that's why that is. You got your jack and wheel brace in that little brown grey wrap just there as well. So on the off side of the van is where the majority of the kind of bits I actually have to talk you through are. So you've got the boiler vent just here. So obviously, because the boiler just sits there, that's why that's just there. So again, same sort of thing as the fridge. If you wanted to double check that it was actually working, you can put your hand under here and just feel the warm air pumping out, and that'll just prove to you that it's definitely on. You've then got your hookup just here. So if you do have access to a hookup cable, really helpful to have that plugged in, because your leisure battery will be being charged up all the time then, which means that you don't have to worry about the power depreciating over time. So having that plugged in is really helpful. It also means, because this boiler works on electric as well to heat the water up, it means that if you have the mains cable plugged in, you can either use this on gas or electric. Having the mains cable plugged in also means that you'll have access to any of your 3-point sockets, like your household plugs. Yeah, that's about it really. So this is your toilet cassette. So I've got the toilet cassette halfway out already, but basically to put it away, you just push it all the way in. We'll take it out, lift up on the yellow tab and pull it towards us. Then all you need to know really is that you've got your drain off point from here, and that when you're emptying it out, you should be holding down the little yellow button at the back. So that's your toilet cassette. Then got your fresh water filling point. So fresh water goes in there, and that'll then fill up your fresh water tank, allowing you to draw the water through from the pump. I'm just going to have a look down here. Make sure I've not missed anything out underneath. Nope. Okie dokie. Right, so I'm going to jump in the cab now and show you what we've got going on in here. Right, so the cab itself is relatively straightforward. They tend to be on this particular chassis. So you've got, what have you got? So this actually has got air conditioning. So the little switch just there on the left hand side should be your aircon switch, and you've got your standard heater controls running across here. Your hazard warning lights works from the middle just there, and you have got a nice modern looking Clairon single head unit. Various 12 volt sockets around the vehicle. 5-speed manual gearbox. To get it into reverse, you have to pull back on this little piece just here, go over and up to the top left hand side to engage reverse. You then got your lights and indicators from the left hand switch just here, and your washers and wipers on the right. You've got the electric adjusting mirrors as well, so all you have to do to get that to work is basically select which mirror you want to move and then move this around like a little joystick like that, nice and easy. The bonnet release handle is down here on the left hand side above the clutch pedal, and your steering column adjustments is this one just here to the right of that. You have got in the cab just here, you have got this blind which you can pull up if you want to, which will hook up over these little pieces here on the sun visor. If you're wondering how they worked, that's why they've got these little hooks here in this particular place. Both of these seats do swivel round. Let me just show you that. So you've got these little handles here on the right hand side, and then the seat will swivel all the way around. And that is it for the cab, really. Okay, so as I was saying, you can use this table to make up another bed inside the van. So it's really, really simple how you actually do that. So the actual table leg itself literally just folds in half. So you press this little button in, and then the table leg will fold up, which means then it will be sat down at this height instead of that height. You then hook on to the lower bracket just down there, and then pull these cushions forwards onto the table. You do then need to use the front seat, swivel the front seat all the way around and lean it back as far as you can, and that will then make you basically a nice little sort of single bed. So that's the idea behind that. You then got this wardrobe up here. You know, it's only a small wardrobe really, but that's there for you. So first thing I'll run you through is this three-way fridge. So it's a three-way fridge because it works on gas over on the right hand side, 240 volt electric, which is the green switch, and 12 volt electric, which is the red switch. So at the moment I've got the fridge lit up on gas, and I know that for two reasons. I can physically feel the heat coming out through there like I just said a minute ago, but also because I've got the ignition switch on and it's not actually igniting, so that means that the flame is lit. So I'll just turn this off for now and show you what happens. Ignition starts coming on, and I turn the switch off. So that is now completely off. The gas is now off and the ignition's off, so that fridge is completely off from the gas. If I want to light this fridge up on gas, we'll turn the ignition on, push in and round to the left. Ignition stops straight away, telling me the gas has lit. Let go of that, make sure the ignition stays off, and that's it, back on. So that flame is now back on and the fridge is cooling down. So for the time being, I'm going to turn that off again, and I'll show you how to use it on electric. So if we had an electric hookup plugged in to the van at the moment, we would be able to turn the green switch on and literally just leave it like that. That would then start cooling the fridge down via the 240 volt electric. The only other way to use the fridge, as I said, is the 12 volt, which is the red switch. But the difference is with the 12 volt is that you actually have to pre-cool the fridge either via the mains power or the gas before you can switch over to 12 volt. And the reason for that is that the 12 volt, all it really does is hold the temperature inside the fridge whilst you drive. It's not really powerful enough to cool the fridge down by itself, but also it will only work when the engine is physically running. Okay, so the reason for that is that you've got what's called a split charger, which I mentioned under the bonnet. What a split charger does is it basically takes some power from the alternator under the bonnet. so that the alternator itself physically charges up the leisure battery, so that you're charging the leisure whilst you're driving, and it also sends a signal line back to the fridge as well. So this red switch will light up when the engine starts up. Basically, the engine is powering the fridge. So cool the fridge down before you leave, either on gas or the mains power, and then switch over to 12 volt whilst you drive. So hopefully that makes sense. Right, so we've got your 2-burner hob and the sink up here now. You have below the 2-burner hob, you have got the grill as well. So the grill has got a piezo igniter, which is what that thing is there, and it is literally as simple as push in, give that a little blow, make sure it lights up both sides. There you go. So that is literally all you have to do to get the grill to light up. Press in and round to the left on the valve and press in on the igniter at the top. That will then light up. You do have to make sure that it lights up on both sides like I just did then. If it doesn't quite light up on both sides, just give it a little blow inside there and it should just wrap around and work as it should. So that's the grill. The 2-burner hob hasn't got an ignition, so you will need an igniter of some description to light either of these two up. That's pretty standard, if I'm honest, on the motorhomes. So yeah, that just is what it is really. It's just like a household cooker, nothing sort of technical about that whatsoever. So I'll just lift that back down. So you've got a bit more sort of storage down here in these lower cupboards below the grill. Just thought I'd point that out. Okay, so before I get onto the pump and the sink and all that sort of stuff, I am just going to run you through the control panel, because really that's kind of like you need to understand this first. So the control panel itself is super simple. You've got a main 12 volt on and off switch here, so I've got that in the on position at the moment, and that's proven to me because we've got the little green light on just there. If I had the electric hookup plugged in, I would have this little yellow light lit up telling me that the charger was working. If the charger was working, it would basically just start charging up the leisure battery straight away, and that's about it really. Yeah, so this little scale here is basically just telling you if you get any problems with anything. That's essentially what it is if any of your fuses blow, it will come up there with a little red light telling you which fuse has blown. So if the fuse blows for the step, it will light up here above the step symbol. If the fuse blows for the pump, it'll come up here next to the pump. All right, so that's just a nice little thing to save you having to work out what's going on. You can just have a look there, and any issues, it will tell you physically what it is. Once you've got your 12 volt power on, you can have a look at your battery voltages. So press up to see the leisure and down to see the engine. They're both in green, so that's absolutely perfect. You've then got your fresh and waste water levels. So push up to see the fresh level and down to see the waste. So again, they're both pretty much empty. Water pump, push up to turn the power to the pump on. And that's it. As soon as you've done that, you'll be able to use the water pump. It's a submersible pump, so it doesn't come on until you physically open the tap and open up the micro switch. But I will run you through that in a bit more detail in a sec. Pumps on. This one here is a little bit less necessary, in all honesty. So this is a tank heater. So it's a waste tank heater, and you know that's only really if you're going to be in seriously cold temperatures. But yeah, that's all that is. Okay, so now that I've got the water pump switched on, not that I've got much water in the tank, that we just had a little look there, but now that I've got the pump switched on, like I was saying before, the pump is a submersible pump. So every single tap in this vehicle has to have a micro switch fitted to it. Now what a micro switch does is it basically, at all the time that you're not using the tap, the switch sits like this. And when you turn this tap on, the switch closes up and then tells the pump to start pumping, basically. So the difference between that and a standard kind of inline pump is that an inline pump, just like a house, will pressurize right up to the tap and then essentially just come on as soon as you turn the tap on. It will just pump that pressure through, and as soon as you start using the tap, the pump will kick in to get the pressure back up again. But the difference is with this one, like I said, it will only physically run. If you listen, when I turn this tap up, you might hear a little click. So that's the sound of the micro switch coming together and telling the pump to draw water. So the big plus side to that is that there's not really any pressure anywhere. The only time there's any pressure is when you lift the tap open. All right, so there's not pressure around the vehicle all the time. So that's something that I always quite like, but that's, you know, everyone's different, but I've always quite liked that. Right, the first thing you have to do, if you want to use the boiler and you want to get hot water, you have to come to the tap here, assuming that you've got water in the tank and that your pump is switched on. Come over to the tap here and just pull the water through, go all the way up to the top there to get the water coming through on the hot side. So we'll just allow it to come through a little bit. Just gaining a bit of pressure there. So now it's just getting rid of a little bit of air. So it might well be that the tank is running a bit low now. Okay, so if we had a bit more water in the tank, then that would have worked a little bit better. But basically what we're looking for is we're looking for the tap to be turned on, the pump to kick in, and the water to start coming through nice and clearly. All right. If it coughs and splutters like that, it either means two things. It either means that the fresh tank hasn't got enough water in it, or it means that the boiler isn't quite full yet. So if you know that your fresh tank is full, just leave that open, leave the tap open until the water starts coming through nice and clearly. And the reason that you have to do that is because of that drain off point that I was showing you outside, really. If the water isn't coming through nicely, it means that the boiler isn't full, and that basically means that you shouldn't be using the boiler on the hot water. Until the water starts coming through nice and clearly, you can just forget about it and start using the boiler exactly as you want to. But that's what you have to do, really. That's just to prove to you that the boiler is full. Okay, assuming that you've done that, you've checked that the boiler's full, you can then go ahead and use it in any way that you like, really. So first things first, this switch on the right hand side, the green one, is how you heat the water up via the electric hookup. Okay, so if you had the electric hookup plugged in and we wanted to heat the water up, I could just literally press that button there and that's it. I could leave it alone and it will start heating the water up inside the boiler. So after about an hour or so, you'll get hot water. On the left hand side, we've got in fact, before I say anything else, it's probably more like half an hour, to be fair. It's, you know, I say an hour just to cover my own back, but really it's more like half an hour normally. But there you go. On the left hand side is how you use the boiler on the gas. So the boiler itself, a little bit of a funny one because, and a lot of these Adrias do it this way, but sometimes you can get these boilers that work on gas and electric for everything, but this one is just one of the ones that works on electric for just the water. So the heating is always just gas only, but the hot water you can do on either, if that makes sense. Right, so a day like today, it's cold outside, and so I might want the heating to come on with the hot water. If it was quite warm outside and I just wanted hot water, I would go up 1 or up 2. So that gives us either 40 degrees or 60 degrees of hot water only. All right, so up is hot water only. Back down to the middle turns the boiler off completely. If I go down once, it gives us heating only. So no hot water, just heating. And if I go down 2, it gives us both heating and hot water. All right, so that's all on gas. Like I said before, if you just want the hot water on the mains, you can switch that light on there. All right, so I'm just going to leave that on for a minute now, just so it lights up and we can sort of see it doing its thing. Loads of storage up here. And that is about it for that section there. So the bathroom, very simple again. You just got the exactly the same tap just there as you do in the kitchen, literally just hot and cold. Push it all the way to the back for hot, just a little bit forwards for cold. So you can see that working there. Yeah, so there's not enough water in the fresh tank, that's why it's coming through a little bit funny. Got your lights all the way around. As soon as you turn that 12-volt power switch on just there, you should have power to all of the lights around the vehicle. But really, in the bathrooms, the only bit that I tend to actually run through is the toilet, because you might not have used one of them before. So it is super simple, but you've got a blue button here on the right hand side, which will pump around the flush fluid, assuming that you've got some water in the fresh tank. And then you've got the handle on the left hand side, which if you pull it towards us, drains whatever is in the bowl here into the cassette, and then push it back. It closes that flap back over, and that's it. That is honestly how you use those toilets. It's nice and simple. Okay, so the boiler's on just there, as you can see, and I will just say as well, anytime that you've got the little orange light on the left hand side, doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it, it just means that the water is heating up. Alright, so if I just went up one to heating only, that orange light will go out. The only time that there's an issue with the boiler is if you get a little red light next door to the green one there. That just basically means that the flame's gone out. Right, under this mattress here, it's a little bit awkward to get to with one hand, but you've got your gas locker under here, which is a little bit of an unusual place to have it, but not the end of the world. So the gas locker itself, you've got space for 2 6-kilo propane bottles in here. You have just got the one at the moment. So to turn the bottle on, we go anti-clockwise around to the left, and to turn it off, we go clockwise around to the right. You need to make sure that you turn these bottles off before you start driving, but otherwise that's about it. You've got your gas isolator taps here as well, so if you wanted to isolate the gas from any appliances, you can do so by turning them 90 degrees like that. So you've got fridge, boiler, 2-burner hob and grill. So that is that. So just put that back down, put the mattress back, and that's it. Right, so the original carpets are here on the bed as well. You've got your 2 forward-facing over-the-shoulder seat belts, which is always really good as well. The law changed for that in 2004, I think it was, so this is all up to regulation. Yeah, so I think I've pretty much covered everything. If there's anything you think I've missed out or anything you'd like going over again, just let us know. But otherwise, we look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks very much.